Good afternoon, it's Dorothy Pilarski welcoming you to Midday Moms. I'm really, very happy to have you here. We have two amazing guests. I'd like to welcome not only those of you that are joining us, and as you're joining us, please in the chat box, say hello, tell us where you're from, because you know me, I like to know who you are. So, please in the chat box say hello, this is Rema, this is Maria, this is Teresa. Please say hello in the chat box. I wanted to extend a very warm welcome to Mary Wagner and her mom, Jane Wagner. And for those of you that maybe don't know Mary, because not everybody knows Mary. Mary, can you tell us just briefly a little bit about yourself? And I'll introduce you a little bit more formally later, but tell us just a little bit about yourself if you could.
Hi, Mary. I'm Mary. I'm currently living in Victoria with my mom and dad and the 4 children who are we've been raising for the last number of years. And I'm Catholic. I'm one of 12 kids, the third of 12 kids, including 5 adopted children. And for about close to 10 years, I was living in Ontario, where I moved to join Linda Gibbons, who's been a very good friend for a number of years, who began going to reach out to moms at the abortion sites. And as a result of her commitment to them, when the bubble zone law came into effect, she started she was arrested for her witness. And I received a similar calling to go to meet the moms at that place where they're abandoned and make a similar commitment to them. So for about 9-10 years, I was reaching out to the moms, and then spent some time in custody, quite a number of years out of the last 10 years.
Okay, so thank you for that, and I promise I'll definitely we'll do a little bit of tag teaming. I wanted to say just hello to a few people that are joining us. Hello, I'm Evelyn from Brampton, from St. Jerome's. Hello, Evelyn. Claude from St. David's. How are you? Lisa from Roland, Oklahoma. Welcome, Lisa. Great. I was going to say great to see you. Great to see your name. And hello, Lucy from Mississauga. Hello, Maria Rodriguez. Karen Fahrenholtz from Wellington, Florida. Whoa, I'm friend of Father Stephen Embarato. He is a huge fan of yours. Of mine? No. I'm sure of Mary Wagner's. I got a tricky sense of humor. Anyway, I also wanted to welcome Jane Wagner. Jane is Mary's mom. And Jane, can you tell us a little bit about yourself just before we, start formally into the session today? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I've got 12 kids. 7 of them I gave birth to, and 5 of them we adopted. I've been married for coming up to 52 years to the same man.
That's good. That's good.
And, I was very immature, but my sweetheart was going to Africa, and I thought, oh, that would be quite an adventure. So we got married, and it was an adventure, not in the best sense, but it was a learning and a beautiful experience spiritually for me. I was completely dependent on God to keep me sane. So we came back, and then motherhood unfolded, and I've never looked back.
Oh, that's we're very happy to have the 2 of you here with us today. I know some of you have been, joining us week in and week out. So some of us know, some of you know what we're all about. Some of you, maybe this is your first time session with us. If it's your first time session, can you, let us know it's the first time that you're here. But I would like to tell you a little bit about our ministry. So why are we here? Again, we work in partnership with the Archdiocese of Toronto, and we are on a mission to revive the vocation of motherhood. And we do that primarily by helping parishes start Catholic moms groups. Now, I'm going to just share a couple of slides with you because I would, once the session is over, I would like you to visit our website. I would like you to follow us on Instagram, and I would like you to consider becoming a mother's group leader. Okay, so I'm going to share just a couple of slides with you. Let me just do a share screen. Okay, so there we go. So our ministry is catholicmomsgroup.com. And if you could visit our website, and if you could, follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. We also hold an annual conference called the Dynamic Women of Faith Conference. And it was actually at the Dynamic Women of Faith Conference, not last year, but the year before, that I had the great privilege of meeting Mary for the very first time. And we've sort of become, like, I wouldn't say besties, but we've become friends since that time. And it's just been such a delight and such a grace to meet her mom too. So we have a ministry that helps parishes start mothers groups. That ministry has an annual conference. That conference is called Dynamic Women of Faith. So if you go on social media, please look for these two logos. Go to Instagram, follow us. Go to Facebook, follow us, okay? So we're on a mission to revive the vocation of motherhood, and we do so primarily by helping parishes start moms groups. There's our website address. And we have worked with over 45 parishes in helping them start moms groups. We have started moms and tots groups at, for example, Our Lady of Peace and at St. Peter and Paul. We also have started mothers groups that are moms only. And we also run a parish-based virtual mothers group. So we can help you start Mother and Tots mothers group. We can help you start a Just a Moms mothers group, and we can help your parish start parish-based virtual mothers groups during COVID. These virtual meetups started as a result of COVID, okay? We want to keep on reaching out to you and let moms know you're not alone, you're loved, we're here to help you. And, God's grace can't be stopped anywhere. So we're here. We have developed a variety of different tools. We have a Mothers Group Starter Kit. We host an annual Catholic Mothers Summit, and we have for a number of years. And we have, maybe I'm repeating myself, though. Did I tell you that we have a Mothers Group Starter Kit? So we can ship a Mothers Group Starter Kit to you, and it would allow you to launch a Mothers Group ministry in your parish very quickly and efficiently. So enough about that, because I'm sure that's not why you're here. You're not here to find out about our ministry, but what I want to share that with you. So a lot of people are writing a lot of different things in the chat box. And so I do want to, welcome you. I do want to say hello, but at the same time, I also don't want to miss the opportunity to actually chat with Mary and her mom. So I have a few questions. Before I've got the questions, I do want to formally introduce, Mary. So Mary graduated from English and Roman Studies at the University of British Columbia. She comes from a large Catholic family. Mary's become an internationally renowned pro-life hero. She has approached women who have decided to have an abortion in private abortion clinics, praying and handing out white roses, giving them pamphlets about the value of human life. And because she's violated Ontario's bubble zone and she's broken the law 14 to 18 and probably more times since the last time I spoke to her, but she spent total 5 years in prison, basically advocating for the unborn, and because of these kind of broken laws. Now, Jane is, and please, Mary and her mom will correct me because I need lots of correction. But Jane, as some of you heard, is Mary's mom, and she's been married for 52 years. She's had 7 children and adopted 5 children, lived in Africa, was in a nursing program. And some of you might be wondering, well, how did it come to be? Well, how it came to be that we're here together is I was driving around in the car with Mary, and I hadn't met her mom, and she couldn't stop talking about her mom, and she couldn't stop talking about her sisters and brothers and dad. And I was like, Mary has come from this amazing, amazing, beautiful, beautiful family. And so I wanted to meet Mary's mother, and now you have the opportunity to meet her. Jane, you know, our ministry is on a mission to revive the vocation of motherhood. What is the word vocation, you know, or what is that term, the vocation of motherhood? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's a call to a selfless giving that's probably going to last your whole life. It can be a bit scary, the very idea, but once you've experienced it, or at least for myself, it was like marrying my desires to my yoke, because from my earliest years, that's all I wanted to be, was a mom, and not just to 1 or 2 kids. I wanted to have a whole throng. So so I did, and when I couldn't have any more of my own, it was just a natural thing to think, well, I know that God's still calling me to have more children, so here I am. And they came. So to me, it's a life of service. There's no doubt about it. It's hard work, and it's 24/7, but it's the loveliest work you can do, and probably the most challenging.
Now, Jane, you mentioned in your bio, and it really touched me very, very profoundly, about the encounter that you had with a young soul, a young child in Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about that moment?
Okay, well, we were stationed in West Africa, and for Christmas we went to Lagos, which is the capital, because we had a break. My husband was teaching at the Polytechnic Institute, so we had a couple of weeks off. So we headed down to Lagos, and as I said, I was an immature, frivolous young girl, really, with a mature husband. And so I was excited to go to the beach, and we packed a picnic from the hotel we were staying in, and off we sat. And when I got there, there were a lot of Africans on the beach, but nobody was swimming. But I thought, oh well, so off we went swimming. They were all laughing because there's a terrible undertow we knew nothing about, but God had plans and we survived. So we went back to eat on the beach, and this little boy, he was probably about 2.5, came up and just wearing a loose rag. It was just, he had all the symptoms of protein deficiency, starvation, an extended belly, and the orange hair. And he was looking not at us, but just at our food. And I thought, oh, it was a very maturing moment for me, because this was a little boy who had nothing, literally nothing. And he was coming begging without words. So of course, I gave him everything we had. And he went off down the beach, and I said, Frank, we have to do something. And he said, well, what? And I said, well, maybe we can adopt him. And he said, well, we can look into it. But as we watched him go down the beach, we saw a swarm of kids descend on him and take everything he had. So they were hungry too. So there's nothing else to give them. They didn't come back. He just wandered away. So we went back, and we made contact with the ministry there to see if there's any chance we could adopt some of these children who had nothing and nobody. And we're told no, that this was not permitted, international adoption like that. So, just mind your own business. So that was that, but it never left me. It haunted me. And so when we got home, I didn't think we could have kids because we've been married for a long time. By that point, 15 months, I think. And we didn't have any. So I guess I'll become a nurse. And when I'm old enough, mature enough, we'll maybe adopt. So that's how that little boy affected me, but he never left me. And so we had 3 children, Mary being the third. And then we applied to adopt. I thought, well, we have 3. We've been given this wonderful gift. And we went to the ministry office and said, we'd like to adopt. And they basically laughed. They said, in BC, if you can have your own, don't even bother trying. It's a arduous no. So we went home and had 3 more.
Oh, that's just so beautiful, you know, just so beautiful. And so, Mary, I was just wondering, you know, like when I think back to that, you know, day where, you know, we're in the car and, you know, my son was there, well, like chatting and I'm just kind of curious, you know, you've become this, just this, you know, remarkable soul, courageous soul. Can you tell us a little bit about how your mom and how growing up in that kind of, you know, environment, how did it influence you?
I think much more than I could say or put into sort of a nutshell. Maybe being one of the oldest ones, especially the oldest girl, I sort of took on a secondary motherly role early on, and I just loved kids and was part of the family life, enjoyed the babies that came along, and I know that I remember long before my parents adopted. I remember the idea of adoption because it had always been a kind of a topic in our family. It was something that my siblings and I would get excited about. Maybe we could adopt a child, and so just from early on, the seeds were planted about openness to others and becoming a part of the family. I think that had a really profound impact on me. And then, of course, when my parents went ahead and began adopting, I think I was 14 or so at the time. So I think that aspect, but knowing that too, I think about this a lot, that we had sort of some rules in I wouldn't say my parents were overly strict really, but we would always pray the rosary on our knees every evening, and we would go to Sunday Mass, and it was made clear to us early on that you don't miss Mass. That's the most important point of the week, unless you're sick. And so we would always go to Mass as a family, and it was never something that we would miss except for sickness. And I think I shared with you one story about my younger brother, who was quite a disturbance at Mass, and my parents went back and forth about it, and they said, okay, well, we'll agree that he hasn't reached the age of reason yet, so one of us will just split up going to Mass at different times. And then the day came where he was old enough, and it was decided that yes, he has reached the age of reason, and so it was announced to Stephen, you're going to be coming to Mass now with us. And he put up quite a fight and argued, well, I haven't reached the age of reason yet. So
he was 5.
Yeah. I think, I'm very blessed to have grown up with the family that I have, and that those seeds were planted early of the need for prayer and the need to put God first. And then I guess the openness in our family to others beyond our own family, biological family.
You know, I do have to say that when I saw, you know, coverage of the work that you do, Mary, in the, you know, different newspapers and everything, I had like quite a different impression of you than when I met you in person. And in person, you know, there was just like such a tenderness and such a gentleness and such an openness and such a kindness, you know. Would these be some of the things that you saw at home? Or like, I'm always like, how do you become sweet? Like, it's never something I've been very good at.
Not always. In fact, my mom would be perfectly honest with you. I think a better assessment of my character. Those who know you.
I'm talking from my own experience with you. I'm sorry. You know, it's your mom would know better. But I guess maybe what I could ask you is like, what are some of the virtues maybe that you saw animated at home? I'm just curious.
Okay, well, I guess my parents are both quite different in their character, and I think for my dad, I learned a lot about, not to say mom's not honest, but my dad is really honest. Like truth is really, really important to him, and so that I took from him. And he's also a very patient person, so that was modeled for me. Very, very patient, and my mom, just her desire to get things done, her desire to do as much as possible for everyone in the family and beyond as well. Those examples.
Yeah, no, and I know that, I'm kind of catching you on the spot asking these crazy questions, some of them that, kind of pop into my head. Jane, when I read your bio, I'm kind of like, this is one remarkable woman. She's like going to Africa at, 18. She's, having these children, this mighty force in this, can you tell me a little bit of what influenced you to become the woman that you've become? Like, are there any particular mothers or saints or books, or how did you kind of become who you are? I'm curious.
Well, I think my grandmother was a tremendous influence on me. She had 12 children. She raised them through the Depression. She was the most generous and kind and loving woman I think I ever met. And her daughter, my mother, she was an extrovert, a go-getter, get things done type of person. And I think at the time that she had her children, her 5 children, it was a time when you had to kind of be at home and the isolation. I think it was very difficult for her as a young mom, but she persevered and she leaned on God, and she was a wonderful mother, but she wasn't the one that wanted to be at home with her kids. So I think I probably modeled myself more on my grandmother. And Mother Teresa influenced me in terms of our adoption stories. And then we got into fostering, which is something I haven't mentioned yet, but Mary was to me, Mary is a mother, my daughter Mary, because she influenced me greatly in the fostering piece, being able to reach out and love other people's children like my own, to be able to bring them in and love them and let them go. That's what Mary was doing. Every time she went to the abortion clinic, she was there standing with the babies whose mothers had abandoned them, and she became their mother briefly, and then she had to let them go, and then she was punished for it. So she was a great influence for me. I don't think I ever told her this because I wanted to get proud.
Like a good Catholic mother, we got to be careful. Thank you.
Your daughters are beautiful or anything else. You just let them be humble. And certainly Mary is already humble, but yes, she was a tremendous influence.
And so that's there's a couple of beautiful things that you've said that, you wanted to reflect on, that, there was, one woman in your life being your grandmother that, thrived on being at home, and she loved being at home, and, your mom was a little bit of an extrovert, and that you're like, and I'm sure you were influenced by your mom and maybe resonated, more with, your grandma. I know in my own case, my mom being a survivor of World War II, sometimes she was explosive, she was 13 years old. And, there's a lot of forgiveness that, but my aunt was, like a domestic diva. So different, and my mom was a great diva too, but it's beautiful to hear how, that the significant women around us help us become and mold who we are. And it's beautiful to hear. Thank you, Jane. Just how your daughter is affecting your mothering now, so that's beautiful. I just want to go to some of the comments here from the people that have joined us, because I just don't want to ignore them, and so Mary Helen Mose, hello from Aid to Women in Toronto. Hello, Mary Helen, thank you for joining us. Okay, Amber Gormley from Oshawa, hello. Patricia from Waterloo. This is her first time here. Thank you for joining us. Teresa Rowinski. Hi, Teresa, from St. Maximilian Kolbe Parish. Ivana, a Mother's Group leader from St. Gregory's Parish in Etobicoke. Hello. Roseanne. Any other questions? Or, oh, Jocelyn Pollard from Milton. Hi, Jocelyn. Great to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So a big warm, and if you have any questions, for example, for Mary and her mom, you know, keep on typing away here. So I wanted to sort of go back to you, Mary. Mary, do you have any specific memories that you remember about your mom that have kind of stuck with you, and memories maybe that you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, my mom had, as she shared, she's had 7 children, and she lost one baby before her 7th born child. And I remember, I think probably not my brother, but my sister, and the difficult pregnancy that my mom had with her. And it turned out my mom has a heart-shaped uterus, but she didn't know that throughout all of her pregnancies until the last one. So she had a really challenging pregnancies. And so when I was 4, her water broke at 4.5 months.
16 weeks.
16 weeks. And of course, that all went over my head as a 4-year-old. But I just remember my mom going to my grandmother's and then the hospital, and she was gone for a long time, I think about 3 or 4 months, and managed by the grace of God to keep this baby in her womb. And so Angela was born by C-section at 7 months. It was very hard, very lonely days and months to be without your mother. And so I think that at the time, I only experienced a sense of loss in a negative sense. But as I grew older, I started to put the pieces together and understood what my mom had done for my sister in doing all she could. It was complete bed rest that she had to be on to give this baby a chance. And she had a few other, well, one other pregnancy that went well. And then there was a miscarriage. And then the last child born, Connor, who's now 30. And I think the witness that she gave to her unborn children and the sacrifices that she made, I mean, growing up and understanding that a lot of advice even by doctors would be, don't just go about your business because you probably won't keep this child. Well, with my mom, it was a matter of this child, I'm going to do everything I can to give this child a chance. And great sacrifices is what she made. And then, I guess in a sense, all of us, because we had to, I guess, offer up our mom not being able to be there in a sense for us as she would have liked to, just so that this little one could be born into the world. I think those were really profound experiences and witnesses to the sanctity of life for me growing up.
And I have to give myself a few minutes to recover from the goosebumps, because it's such a beautiful, beautiful testament. And I think that, for all moms that are listening today, is to remember, that our children are watching us, and they're profoundly impacted by observing us. And so a couple of things, Mary, that you've said that's kind of just jumped out at me, that having the family rosary, praying on your knees, which is, we didn't have that. I didn't have that experience in my family. And then seeing your mom sacrifice her health and everything, and so, like, suffering wouldn't be unusual in terms of kids experience suffering in family life, right? And so thank you for, I mean, it's not often I get speechless, but it was so beautiful that I have to take a minute to recover from how beautiful that was. Thank you. Jane, a couple of people here are asking, and it seems like more than one person is asking. I wanted to welcome Kasha Riba. Kasia has, I think, Mary, you met Kasia at the Calling All Girls event, and I keep on praying that she becomes one of our Mothers Group leaders. Maybe this will be a moment where the Holy Spirit anoints her. But anyway, Kasia is asking Jane, do you have a sort of a go-to prayer for moms? Like, is there a particular prayer or a prayer book or a series of prayers that you've used over the years?
My go-to prayer, my go-to saint is Saint Joseph, because two of my children have a second name. He's to me, he took care of Mary and he took care of the Holy Family. So there's no better person to ask to take care of my children or my grandchildren. So he's been my go-to. I use the ancient prayer of Saint Joseph. I make a perpetual novena to him for all of my children.
Is that something that you would be able to email to me at one point so I could share with these moms? So it's an ancient prayer.
If you type ancient prayer to Saint Joseph, it will come up on Google.
Okay, so if we could Google, if everyone here could just Google the ancient prayer to Saint Joseph, and you pray that perpetually. Is that correct?
Yes, I do, and I also daily pray the chaplet to Our Lady of Sorrows, because that to me is very powerful. And then because I'm such a as Mary said, she got her patience from her dad.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Patient person. I remember saying to a priest, "Don't pray for patience, whatever you do, because I've been praying for it." I said, "Stop! I knew a woman who prayed for patience, and God sent her 9 children." So you've already got. So no. So I pray the litany of humility, because it was recently introduced to me by our parish priest, and I wish I'd had it all my life, because I could certainly have benefited from it. But I say that daily as well. So I would recommend that, because it just centers you on reaching out, that we are God's instrument only. And from there comes everything good.
Okay, this is, and so it just kind of begs the question, Mary, do you have any particular favorite prayers or kind of pious devotions or practices that maybe?
I like the novena to the Holy Spirit. I think too it's an ancient novena. Well, the novena itself obviously is from Pentecost, but there is a special, and I don't know the title of it, but it's prayed during the cenacle time. But you can pray at any time, just asking the Holy Spirit. Really, that's, for me, that is, I guess, aside from Rosary and the Liturgy of the Hours, those would be my prayers to the Holy Spirit, asking him to enlighten me, to give me wisdom.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. We've got a couple of more questions here. I'm just going to pause. May I ask, so this is Judith Rincon. Hi, Judith. Thank you for joining us, and let us know where you're from. May I ask, how did they finally end up adopting the children? So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, well, my miracle baby, the one who was born at 16 weeks and wasn't supposed to survive, she developed juvenile diabetes in the 1st grade at school. So that was having a child with special needs, and it was quite a profound experience for me. And that led me to think, well, what about the children who don't have a family that's so loving and surrounds them with everything they need? So I said, Frank, this might be a good time to adopt. Let's look into it. Maybe if we take children with special needs, they'll let us adopt. So we went back to the ministry, said we'd like to adopt a child or children with special needs, preferably diabetes, since I'm now an expert. Well, they didn't have any like that, because they just didn't. But what they did have was twins with fetal alcohol syndrome. Okay, sure, well, we'll take those. And that was shocking, and it was a wild ride. It was amazing. But that's why what stimulated us to do that was having a child with special needs. That special needs had nothing on fetal alcohol syndrome, but it was, these children were meant to come to us. I know that. And when I wanted to give up, Frank would say, well, let's just keep going. And when he wanted to give up, I said, just go take a break. So we kept going, and thank God we did. They're wonderful young men. And Mary was there. She would pack, they were so small, they would fit in your backpack. She would take off our hands. She was just amazing. So even though she was only 14 at the time, she recognized how their intrinsic value, and even though they had many, many challenges, she saw the beauty in them. And so that was our first adoption. The second one was because we had a later in life baby, and I thought, well, let's try for adoption again so he doesn't grow up alone. And so then we ended up with Corey, who's also has fetal alcohol syndrome, but he's doing very well. And then the other two just kind of came along. God just told me, okay, there you go. Here's a couple of girls now.
Now, this is a question that kind of just, one of the old, it just popped into my head question. But one thing that, when I was, single and I got married quite late in life, and very often, but I would hear, women complaining about children, or, women saying, oh my gosh, I gotta, I've got 2 kids and I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle this. This is like too much. And then when I remember first having my very first child, Monica, like something in me changed, and it changed very distinctly. And it was a profound, I had a profound Marian experience, which I won't get into now. But can you maybe speak to the woman who's listening here today, the mom that's listening here today, where maybe she is overwhelmed, and maybe she does have, 1 child and she can't handle it? Like, what can women do, or what can moms do to handle more? Like here you are, adopting, having your own children, having illnesses in the family, having a daughter that's been in jail, like just many, 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 many trials, and you're handling it all, right? And I don't know why. I don't know what the mystery is. There some kind of a mystery? Like, why is the modern woman or the modern mom who now has, a dishwasher, a microwave, 2 cars, why is she overwhelmed when someone like, for example, you and many other Catholic women that I've met, why can they do it, right? Do you have any words to that, Mom? What might she think about? What might she do? How might she get more strength,
I think in some ways, this modern world makes it harder for young moms, because more is expected of them, even though they have their microwaves and their dishwasher and their second car. They're expected to contribute financially to the family. They're expected to basically carry 2 roles, a lot of them. And for moms who don't have to do that, who are at home and feel overwhelmed, they need to reach out and keep reaching out, because it is very difficult. I remember being on we were on a little farm with my first child, and I was 20, and he was colicky, and I just thought, what was I thinking? But reach out. I used to go and visit my mom 1 day a week, and she would put up with the screaming and the carrying on, because she knew I really needed the break and the connection. Do whatever you can to find that support, the church, friends, moms groups, whatever you can, because I don't think anyone can do it, especially single moms. They can't do it without support. It's too much. And of course, prayer. I know in my most difficult moments, when I really didn't know what to do or where to turn, a simple, Jesus, I trust in you. That was my constant refrain, Jesus, I trust in you, until the dust settled and I could see a way out, a way through.
And so the one thing that I have found, starting these moms groups, is that, you know, sometimes moms, the busier they get, because, okay, now they're working full time, they've got hockey, driving their kids here and there, that sometimes it's a real temptation to stop going to mass, right? Like it's when you're really, really busy, there's this temptation to let go of what's, you know, the most important. I wanted to just touch base here again. There's a hello from Yolanta Galazka. She's from Right to Life in Mississauga, and she wants to extend a hello to both Mary and Jane. Another question that's just kind of, you know, popped into my head. I'm always grateful for those questions that just get popped in. You know, many of us now are dealing with a variety of restrictions because of this remarkable pandemic. And so we're forced into isolation. And Mary, you know, you've been in prison often, and, you know, sort of like self-imposed restrictions because of the choices that you made, and very beautiful and powerful choices. I'm just wondering if perhaps we could learn a few things from you, like how might one constructively, like I don't want to get into the sort of the politics of COVID and whether these restrictions are correct or not correct, but what I am interested in hearing is, okay, so here you are, you know, you're in a jail cell, and like, how did you manage, or what are some of the things that you did to make that time fruitful? And what could we do, you know, to make our time fruitful instead of otherwise?
Well, I just marvel really at how God is the one who orchestrates far better than we can. And I think what I need to go back to is not how I managed in jail, because how I managed in jail was really the fruit of my time in the monastery. And I was in a monastery. I entered a contemplative community in 2005. And for me, it was very, very challenging in the first 6 months or so, because we were expected to live in silence. And that's not really what...
Silence and okay, ladies, I'm going to do a shout out and a challenge for 3 days silence and COVID restrictions. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I would fail. Sorry. I was just sorry. Sorry, Mary. Okay.
Thankfully, our community was not rigid in that we were allowed, okay, you need to talk to somebody, just ask permission. You can go for a rosary walk, you can pray a decade, and then you can have a chat and go for a walk. But it was the expectation, and the reason was not just to be silent, but was so to help us let Jesus become number one in our lives. And I'm really grateful for that experience, because that I wouldn't have been able to then be in custody and experience what I experienced there. And I think that for other people, this is obviously these restrictions have been imposed on us. I think most people wouldn't choose to live how we're living if we didn't have to at this moment. But if no one is, I'm not different from other people in my desire to be sociable and my need to be around other people. But what I learned, and it was possible for me, it's possible for others too, is to just go deeper in the reality that we are always in the presence of God, and He maybe wants to speak to us in ways that we wouldn't otherwise be able to hear Him. These restrictions could be seen. Whatever God permits, He's always providing a greater good. So whether, like you said, not getting into the whole question of whether they're just, unjust, but they exist. And what is God trying to say to us? And I think that He wants each of us to enter more deeply into the reality of Him in our lives, in every moment of our day, in our loneliness, in our trials, and just let Him create a bigger space for Him, which will then in turn lead us, God willing, to meet Him more profoundly in the other and enrich our relationships. So I really think this could be a great opportunity, even if it hasn't been chosen.
And yes, yes. And any thoughts, Jane, do you have on this, that, you know, this time that's imposed, how might it be used fruitfully?
Well, because currently we have 4 foster children. We're homeschooling them because of COVID. And at first I just couldn't imagine how I would manage to have them home 24/7. But it's actually been a blessing because they've drawn closer. They've really settled. The bonds have been even more deeply rooted. And they're out of the influence that they were under in the public school system. So in that respect, it's been a real blessing. And we have a lot more peace and a lot more prayer, meaningful prayer with them. So it has been a blessing. In terms of the other restrictions, apart from Mass, which I miss terribly, I don't mind being at home because it's where I've been all my life pretty much since I had my first baby. And to me, it's fine, but I can understand that for other people who like to go out and connect with others, it's very difficult. So for me as a homebody and an introvert, it's been a blessing in some respects.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing for our ministry too, because, you know, we would never have a mothers group meeting where we could have, you know, Mary Wagner and Jane Wagner at the mothers group meeting, you know, touching all these lives. And so it's been a remarkable blessing for the ministry too. And again, not to take away from the seriousness of COVID, you know, we all need to be praying. We have a question here from Quinton Munson, who is a reporter for the Catholic Register, and I invited the Catholic Register to join us today because I'm hoping that the Catholic Register can get the word out that that Catholic Moms Group is doing a great job reaching out to moms, you know, from Vancouver to Toronto and everywhere in between. So Quinton, you know, because there are beautiful things that are happening in the midst of COVID. And I think that it's important that we get the news out about these beautiful things that are happening. But Quinton has a question for you. And I'm not sure exactly who it's directed to, but let me read it. What can moms and all of us do to combat a popular culture that either trivializes abortion or glorifies girls who make that choice as indicative of the 2020 film Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which is being showed with awards?
I don't know the movie. I don't know the movie.
I haven't seen the film, but I guess it's not imperative to answering the question. Did you want to?
Yeah, so I'll direct it to both of you. So what can moms do to combat a popular culture that trivializes abortion or glorifies girls that make that choice? What can we do as mothers? And what can we do? What can all of us do? Living in this culture, what can we do?
Well, it's interesting. I can think of an example. I was standing on the road with the 40 Days for Life praying the rosary, and across from the hospital the last spring, I think. And this SUV pulled up, screeched to the side of the road, dust flew. This woman got out of the car, marched over with her, and she pointed her finger in my face and she said, "What have you done for all the unwanted children? How many children have you fostered and adopted?" And I said, "Oh, well, we've adopted 5, and I think I've fostered over 50. And then she just didn't know what to say. She was like,
"Wow, I've adopted 5 and fostered 50. I love it. I wish I could have been there in that moment. That's beautiful."
Spirit was there. And I mean, she could have asked somebody else. Nobody needs to be, I mean, everyone has a right to their pro-life perspective. You don't have to adopt and be foster parents in order to have the right to speak up against abortion. But it was as if this woman who was just so irate was placed in front of me, and there was 3 other ladies there who wouldn't have been able to answer affirmatively, but she asked me. And so it was like the Holy Spirit was saying, "Okay, lady, we're not all just people with a mouth. Some of us actually act on it, which was what her problem was. She couldn't see that everyone has a right to be opposed to abortion, but that there are pro-lifers who also will do something for the so-called unwanted children. Although I don't believe there's any such thing, but they think that. So I would encourage people who have honed their mother skills and the children are growing or almost grown to consider fostering, because there are children out there that have nobody. And some of them grow up never knowing the experience of having a mother, a real mother. And so it's something worth doing.
Yeah, and so, you know, the other, this is just a tiny little thing that I did, and it worked beautifully, and it worked despite myself. Whenever my kids were very little, whenever I saw a baby, I was just naturally overcome with joy because I loved them, right? So I'd be like, Monica, Michael, look at that baby. Oh my gosh, isn't it precious? And so then I'd like run up and I'd say to the mom, oh, when did you have it? Oh, look at that little smile. And I'd always make like this moment out of, and I think part of it was because I had a life-threatening situation, was told I couldn't have any more kids. And so then the reality of a baby became so much more precious for me. And I grieved every time I saw a new baby. And so, but I would run up to it. And so my children, as they got older, they kept on running up to babies and doing the same thing and then showing me, right? And so then, like when the idea came up, it was just like atrocious to them that somebody might want to kill. So I think as mothers, if we keep on, you know, just pointing out the beauty of little children and the beauty of right from the day that they're born, you know, fostering those relationships. Another question here that is a good one. Mary, how did you wind up having so much support from Poland? And, you know, I've often wondered that too. Some of you may or may not know that my cousin's son is the president of Poland, Mr. Morawiecki. And I keep on trying to think of a way that we can get back there together with Mary and I and really revive the vocation of motherhood. Because so much about motherhood I've learned from the Polish culture. So anyway, how did you get all of this support from Poland, Mary?
Well, I think first of all, there was an article that was put out in the media shortly after one of my convictions. And the judge said something that was really inflammatory. He said, if you think you can do this, then you are wrong and your God is wrong. And so that was the headline, and it just went viral, I think. And so then I started getting a lot of mail from Poland. And I think it's important to understand Polish culture, which is still very Catholic. I mean, it's under threat. The family is very much under threat, but still having visited Poland a few times, I see that profound Catholic spirit that still permeates the culture and the people there. So, and I think also that there tends to be a perception of Canada as being a country that really respects human rights. And so when word got out to Poland that there's a woman who was peacefully protesting, that's how people understand it, in custody for trying to stand up for the rights of the unborn, well, really what's going on in Canada? So then that just got the attention of a lot of people, and they wanted to show their support. And I think that's how it grew, just kind of word got out. And I don't know if that's a satisfactory answer. That's the best that I can make of it.
Yeah, no. And so I would encourage any of you here that are writers today to write about, you know, our interview today, because who knows whose life you'll touch, who knows where it'll go. You know, we need good Catholic writers. We need good Catholic security guards. We need good Catholic movie producers. So please use your talents for Catholicism. One question that has been asked over and over again, and I keep on avoiding it, and I shouldn't, and it's not a bad question, it's just a matter, there's so many to ask. So Jane, so I'm going to quote it here from Rema. It's been asked by many people. How did you deal with Mary being incarcerated? How did you feel when it happened the first time? And how have you adapted to these situations over the years? Like it can't be easy, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the first time, first when Mary went to jail, she was in her early 20s. And it was very difficult for me because just the idea of my daughter being in jail with murderers, and it was overwhelming. And my mother was she was just fiercely opposed to it. And so I think, was it before you went to prison, Mary, that anyway, we were very much opposed to it. And so Mary, being the dutiful daughter, went the way of the convent, joined the convent, but she could never escape because Our Lady pursued her there in a nutshell. So yes, then when she came back, it was like, I think Our Lady just gave me the courage to realize that she would take care of her in prison and I should be supportive. And so I became supportive. It was an act of the will because I really did not, I thought you can do anything else. Why do you want to, how can you do this? But she did. And Our Lady gave me the grace to accept it and to support her in it. And I have ever since then, even though it is very hard.
I have to jump in here because your sign behind you, Dorothy. If you're waiting for a sign, this is it. I remember you told me this story just so you can share that you were really struggling and you told me that you went to adoration and you were led to something. Do you remember?
Yes, I was led to, well, I think God just spoke to me that, you need to let your daughter do what she's doing.
Joan Andrews' book.
Yeah.
The book. Joan Andrews' book.
Yes, I read her book.
It was in the adoration. You're forgetting.
I know I am. It's my senior moment.
Okay, so I'll just tell them.
Thank you.
My mom told me this story. I'm not making it up. that you went to adoration and you were really just asking God, well, how can I accept this? Is she right? What am I supposed to believe? And on the shelf in the adoration chapel, there were all kinds of books. And you told me that somehow your attention was drawn right to the prison letters of Joan Andrews Bell.
Yes, that's right. I remember
who's
now.
really like a spiritual mother to me. And she was in prison in the US in the 80s and 90s for her rescue, part of the rescue movement. And so you told me that.
Yes, I've forgotten that. I knew God was the instrument, but no, in reading it, seeing it, somebody else who was experiencing it, and I admired her and thought, wow, it's such a beautiful thing. And I realized, well, then how can you refuse God when he asks for your daughter to do the same thing? So that was a touching moment for me, definitely. There was also a moment after, I don't know if you're running out of time, Dorothy, if you've got time for
if you've got a few more minutes, please go.
So it was, I think, one of Mary's first trials, and we were there as a family to support her, and she was just the slip of a girl, and it was just like the whole system against her, standing there with her rosary, answering the judge's questions, no lawyer representing her, and then sentenced to jail. Well, I was just wild with grief. My son, who was a law student at the time, Mary's next older brother, we were standing out in the hall, and he was with me being supportive. Frank, of course, was at home with the kids. And then this woman came up, a well-dressed woman who said she'd just come to court her husband had some court dealings. And she just was passing time, and she noticed a big crowd in this one courtroom. So she went to see, well, what's going on in there? It might be something interesting. And it was Mary's trial. And so when she came out into the hall, she said, did you see them? Did you see them? And I said, what? And she said, the angels. She said, there were two angels either side of that young woman. And she said, as she stood there, they were there. I've never seen such a thing. And this was, she said, you probably think I'm crazy, but I'm not. I'm so-and-so. And my son was so overcome, he went off to cry in the washroom, I think. But to me, it was just that affirmation that she's not alone. The angels, of course, are with her. And God is with her. And so why am I worried about her being alone? She's going to be safe. She's going to be okay. And
wow, what a profound, profound story. Now, I don't want to miss just this one other, because I know everyone's busy and I know, but there's just one other thought that I wanted to just have you both speak on, whoever, that you know, our ministry is on a mission to revive the vocation of motherhood. And if you kind of take a look at, you know, motherhood, the way that it was in the, you know, kind of old days, moms were at home. And then you take a look at modern motherhood where we're, you know, outsourcing so many things, you know, like mothers are calling upon, you know, breast consultants and breastfeeding consultants and sleeping consultants and, you know, and we're just outsourcing so much. And I'll never forget a day in this backyard. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, but something struck me and I want to share it with you and just see how it resonates with you. Like, I was like, okay, we've hired someone to cut our lawn. I'm a stay-at-home mom, mind you. You know, I've hired someone to cut the lawn. I've hired someone to watch the kids so I can, you know, go do this and that. I've hired someone, you know, call it Metro, to cook my dinner because I'm picking up a, you know, barbecue chicken. I've hired someone to paint my living room. You know, and I'm like, what the heck am I teaching my kids? You know, I'm hiring this and hiring that. And it's like, what are these kids going to witness? What are they going to think, you know, in growing up and seeing all of this? And I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm wondering, Jane, do you have any words of wisdom, you know, in terms of helping moms maybe understand that they will have a duty before God to account for how they spent their time and like, I don't know, like, do you know what I don't know even know where I'm going with this. But do you have any thoughts on it? I'm just kind of,
I think our children are profound gifts, and if you're given a profound gift, you don't give it to somebody else if you appreciate it for what it is, and you don't let somebody else come in and take it from you or take care of it for you. You won't leave it. What is most precious in your life, you devote yourself to. And I think a child, a gift from God like that, you do have a duty, because it's a gift that is so irreplaceable and priceless that you have a duty to be there to safeguard it and to lead that child towards God. And nobody else is given the grace of state that you have as a mother. So yes, it's a profound duty, but it's a profound gift. It's all wrapped up together. You can't really separate it. As far as cutting the lawn and that, well, my kids cut the lawn and we painted, and you know, with a big family, you have the sources there to do these things. So your children see that you're a cohesive unit and that you help each other, and that you matter more than anything. You matter to each other.
Yeah, and so, like, I guess, you know, my heart goes out to, you know, moms in this day and age, because I think that, you know, some of the expectations that are, you know, put in magazines and TVs and everything are just like so unreasonable. And then, you know, I guess many years ago, I used to deliver seminars internationally, you know, business seminars to women, and women would come running up to me after these corporate seminars and, you know, pour their hearts out to me. And, you know, and I'll remember one woman, like, you know, like, I missed my child's childhood. And then, but I always say that no one ever came up to me and said, I'm sorry for the time I spent with my children. But many women came up to me saying that they were sorry that they didn't have another child, for example, or they were sorry that they didn't spend more time. And we need like supernatural confidence, right? To kind of listen to maybe some of those promptings. And I don't know, maybe God is calling someone here today to have another baby, you know? Maybe God is calling someone here today to spend more time in prayer, you know? And are there any books, Jane, that you might recommend on motherhood that affected you in a particular way?
I don't think I ever read books on motherhood. I just lived it. And
no, that's
I did have my heroes that I like, Mother Teresa and my own grandmother and mother, that I tried to emulate, but I just pretty much lived it. I let my instincts guide me. And I think often these books that you read, they're influenced by our current culture, which is not conducive to family life. So they might focus on well, how do you breastfeed, or how do you do this, and all, the nitty gritty of how you do things, which might be helpful to someone who doesn't have a clue. But a lot of this is natural instinct. You follow your instincts, you follow your gut, and you pray and you do your best. And I think that's really the way to go, not to read books because everybody in a book has a bias. And
unless, of course, you're going to read Motherhood Matters by Dorothy Pilarski. Sorry, a little bit of self-promotion there. Sorry, that was bad, right? That was bad on my part. Sorry. I would have to go to confession over that one. Too proud. Anyway, it is 3.
But I will, Dorothy, because Motherhood Matters, the very title there, it's worth reading. Yeah. But I didn't read the clinical books. Like
no. I'm just having fun with you. I'm just having fun with you. So I want to respect everybody's time. Mary, I know that you're very busy, and Jane, I know that you're very busy. Oh my gosh, there's lots of questions that are coming up. Oh boy.
I had a thought about that, Dorothy, because I'm not very good at multitasking at all. So I'm not able to respond to some of the personal questions, but if anybody wants to send me an email with those same questions, because I think they disappear after the meeting, right? So,
yeah, so if okay, so there's a couple of things here. We need to finish up. Do you have any closing, Mary, any closing thoughts that you would like to share with everyone that's here?
Well, I would like to thank you, Dorothy, for inviting my mom and me to join you, and to thank you all the moms who are here with us today. Please keep us in your prayers. We have a special prayer intention I would just like you to entrust without getting into it, just involving the children in care here. You can pray for them, and we will pray for all of you as well. Thank you.
Can everybody here please commit to praying? I'm sorry, but this is in my nature. Can everyone here who can commit to praying 1 rosary tonight for this specific intention? It's an intention for Mary and her mom. Can I please get a yes that you'll pray a rosary? We need those prayers for Mary and her family. And Jane, do you have any closing thoughts?
Just to let the moms who are struggling to know that they're doing God's work, to keep going, that it's worth it. It's always worth it. And God is with us even in the darkest times, especially in the darkest times. And to not be so influenced by the world, to allow your own motherhood to just emerge and embrace it and enjoy it, even if especially during COVID, since you have to anyways. So and that motherhood is a profound gift, and there are duties that come with it that are also a gift.
Okay, so I don't know if any of you remember Carol Burnett. I like to lighten up, but I always like to say, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, it comes a time we have to say so long. So thank you everybody for joining us. Remember, if God's calling you to have a baby, have it. And if God is calling you to pray a rosary tonight, which I'm sure he is, I'm so terrible. So please pray a rosary tonight for Mary and her mom's intentions. And if you have any questions, send an email to info@catholicmomsgroup.com. I promise you we'll respond. It might take a day or two, but we will. We love you. Goodbye. Oh, just last thing, next week at 2 o'clock Thursday, which is the regular day for Midday Moms, I would ask you to pray. I won't be here. I'll be teaching the ordinandi at St. Augustine's Seminary, and I'm facilitating a workshop, conflict management. I always joke, I say, me? I cause conflict. I don't. So I won't be here, but I will be in touch with you vis-a-vis email. The week after next, we have a beautiful, beautiful guest, Sonia Camiso. She's going to be giving a reflection on suffering with joy. Her husband has MS. Her daughter has passed away. Her other daughter is in a wheelchair. Her eldest son has serious, serious learning disabilities, and I've never met a happier soul than Sonia Camiso. And her husband is bedridden, and Sonia has always got her nails done, and she's just a saint in the making. So please join us, not next week, but the week after, to meet Sonia. I've always wanted actually Sonia and Mary to meet. But anyway, another time, another place. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We love you. Please keep us in your prayers. And if you can, please make a donation to the ministry. We need it. Those donations make all of this possible. Thank you very much. Bye-bye-bye. Bye. Bye, Mary. Bye, Jane.
Bye, Dorothy.
Bye,
Everybody. Bye,
I don't want to say goodbye. I'm having so much fun. Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Thank you, and give a big hug to Frank and the kids. Okay, Dorothy thanks you. Okay, bye-bye. Bye, everybody.